Well, let's get the ball rolling here. Want to be respectful of our guest time this evening and of your time as well. So, as most of you know, we do have a special guest tonight, Stephanie Phillips, comic book writer extraordinaire. She's an American writer known for comics and graphic novels such as Harley Quinn, Superman, Tarna, and The Butcher of Paris. Her stories and comics have appeared with DC Comics, Aftershock, Dark Horse, Oni Press, Top Cow, Image, Heavy Metal, Black Mask Studios, just to name a few. Stephanie's currently the writer for the new ongoing Harley Quinn series, which is coming up on Final Order Cutoff, I think, this coming week. So great opportunity to add that to your pull list. And the really interesting stuff about Stephanie here is she holds a PhD in rhetoric and composition and an MA in English from the University of South Florida. She's taught writing and communication courses at the University of Buffalo, the University of South Florida, and the University of Tampa. Outside of comics, she's a Muay Thai. I'm not she'll correct me on my pronunciation there. Muay Thai fighter and hockey player. She likes cats, old westerns, and macaroni and cheese shaped like cartoons. Sounds like Stephanie's going to fit right in with our group here. So let's welcome Stephanie Phillips to the live stream.
Hey, Mark.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Stephanie. Now, where are you right now?
I'm in Buffalo right now.
You're in New York?
Yeah, I'm in New York, but Tampa, Florida is my home for most of my life until about a year ago, year and a half. So.
Okay. So you're used to this cold weather that we're having in this part of the country.
Very new to me. So like seeing an icicle for the first time the other day, I was like, what is that? Like magic. So, it's definitely a change.
You definitely picked a heck of a winter to experience winter. The last couple of years, I don't think we used our snowblower more than once or twice in the last 2 years, and now we've already, seen more snow than we normally see.
Yeah, so. But Buffalo gets hit with the lake effect snow there.
Yeah. So. That's my wife Angie off to the side here. She's like my Robin to my Howard Stern. Mm-hmm. She's the producer, unseen producer out there. Well, I'm appreciative of you taking the time to talk to us tonight, and the main reason I wanted to have you on is that I had a chance to read an advanced copy of Nuclear Family, which is coming out next week, so 1 week from today, from Aftershock Comics, and I loved it. And I thought, why not come on and talk to our fans and customers about the comic and maybe why they should pick it up.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about that one as well. It's kind of a really cool chance to do something very inspired by stuff that I really like Twilight Zone and Philip K. Dick. And it's kind of picking up at the end of, there's a short story called Breakfast at Twilight that Philip K. Dick wrote. And I mean, it's very short. It's like maybe 5 pages or something like that. So we're kind of like exploring a lot of the stuff that's left out of the story about this family that time travels to an alternate timeline / reality during the Cold War era. And so it's not really explored what happens to them when they go into this reality. So we decided why not do kind of the portion that's left out of the short story. So artist Tony Shasteen and I kind of started working on this a while ago, and I'm really excited to get to work with Tony on that story. And it's been, a lot of fun putting that one together.
And I know it's hard to talk about it without giving too much away. But, one of the things that, first off, I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan, and I could definitely feel that vibe coming off of it. I'm also a fan of all things 1950s. So, you put those two together and it's fantastic. And then you throw in the Tony Shasteen artwork, who I discovered reading Star Trek comics from IDW, and it's just a win-win. I guess I've noticed with some of your work, you're doing a lot of historical fiction. Maybe a lot is the wrong term, but you've got A Man Among Ye. The trade just came out last week from Image Comics. Everyone, Artemis and the Assassin, which is set kind of all over the place, but also during World War II. Is that an area that are you doing that intentionally, or is this by accident?
No, it's intentional. I like historical fiction a lot, and that's kind of a comfort area. I really like something that lets me go research. With Nuclear Family, it's really interesting because we're doing like there's definitely some research that went in, especially for things like we're talking about our main character, a Korean War vet. So going and doing a lot of research on the Korean War, things I didn't know about, like geography, so that we could put together things like flashbacks and have them feel as accurate as we could. But for the most part, the story is taking place in a very alternate timeline. So we kind of had this opportunity to play with what if scenarios, which I feel like is a very Philip K. Dick experience, to be like, what is the like worst case scenario if the Cold War had happened a very different way? So we tried to be really creative about it, like letting Tony design some really interesting aspects of like a bombed out version of Milwaukee, 10 years after like a nuclear apocalypse. Like, what would that look like? Like, how had society changed? And that was a cool kind of departure from just straight up historical research, which is definitely something that I gravitate towards and like building in whenever I can. So it was kind of, I guess, a blend of both for this one, but also a little bit of a departure from that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to figure out how to ask this without giving too much away about the comic. Well, first off, so we know you're adapting like a 5-page story. So is this a mini series, like 4 or 5 issues?
Yes, it's 5 issues. I'm like, if a book does well and there's more issues, I would say that we leave it in issue 5 with like a possibility of somewhere it could go. I think in my brain and maybe Tony's, we kind of have this idea of what would come next, but we wanted the 5 issues to feel very much contained and kind of answer the question of like, what did we not see in the Philip K. Dick story? And that was our initial goal. So anything beyond that is awesome, but I feel like we kind of set out to create something really self-contained with the 5 issues.
And you've done a number of series with Aftershock. Is there a reason that, this is kind of a silly question, but presumably they're treating you well and you like working with them, but why Aftershock?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of looking at my work, they're one of the first indie companies that really started giving me a shot and giving me a place to develop my voice and what I wanted to do. And I mean, I feel like that can kind of be traced starting with Descendant and then moving on, just kind of having that place to kind of mature as a writer and like experiment with new things. And I think, Nuclear Family is one of my favorite things I've ever written, especially getting to work with a good friend like Tony and a really talented friend like Tony. I think that kind of our efforts there really come through as like maybe one of the more mature things that I've gotten to write. And, I think that's one of the reasons Aftershock is a really good place to be. It's like nice to experiment, try something. Especially outside of the licensed stuff I work on, getting to be like, I had this wild idea that maybe we can't do somewhere else, but we get to kind of play with that in the creator-owned Aftershock realm.
And I don't know if you get the retailer side of things very often, but Aftershock is really a great company to work with as a retailer because they make it easy for us to take a chance on something new. They offer returnability on the first issue. They give us, plenty of support. We get cool promo items, like for Scouts Honor, we got the badges that we can give out to people. And when you get a chance to meet with those folks in person, they're always very receptive to feedback from retailers. So as a retailer that's now been dealing with Aftershock since they started 5 years ago, they're a great company for us to work with as well. So I'm glad to see that you continue to do work with them and also all the different creators that are publishing through Aftershock and really everywhere right now. It's I've had the store for 15 years and I really believe that comics are better now than they have. And I've been a fan for 40 years. Better now than they ever have been. Just as an overall package with the different genres that are available, there truly is something for everyone. And it's just awesome that I get to do what I do. And I'm sure that you feel the same way that you get to do what you do in this world of comics today.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And I feel like there's a lot of new talent kind of moving in as well. So seeing like a lot of new voices and new stories coming out. And I agree, like as a fan, every week I kind of take time to just kind of sit down and be like, what's on my pull list this week? So yeah, I think I'm a little behind, but I always enjoy that too.
Well, let's get to, I guess we've got a couple of questions that are coming in and we'll get to those in a second, but we also want to talk about kind of a high level project that you've got coming out in about 3 or 4 weeks, and that's the relaunch of Harley Quinn. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. That's kind of been a work in progress for a while with artists Riley Rossmo and Ivan Placencia on colors, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Harley's moving back to Gotham, so we get to kind of play with her back in the Gotham sandbox, which I'm super excited about as both a fan and a writer, seeing her interact with different elements of Gotham. She's kind of on this like apology mission that nobody really asked for, thinking that she can really help the city in the wake of the Joker War. So we've really got her like in the aftermath of her almost killing or trying to kill Joker at the end of Joker War. We kind of have this like revelation from that moment of, you know, she wants to work much harder to be a different person and a better person, and not just to get over Joker, but to try to reinvent herself. So I think that's a really cool point in time to get to write someone like Harley, which is like, if the character's reinventing herself and with a new creative team, there's a lot of cool opportunities to do new things with Harley.
And the Harley Batman relationship was one of my favorite aspects of Joker War. Yeah. That, you know, you have these lifelong enemies that are, you know, she's essentially saving Batman's life in Joker War. Sorry, spoiler alert for anyone that isn't up on Joker War. And if you haven't read it, you should totally check out the hardcover that came out a couple weeks ago. James Tynion just killing it with Joker War. And I know a lot of our customers were super excited and really pleased overall with the storyline. So I'm very excited to see what you've got in the works, knowing that you're kind of picking up those threads of Harley, not so much as a villain, but trying to maybe make up for, as you said, for some of the harm that she's done in the past. And at least right now she's hanging up her love for Mr. J and moving on to bigger and better things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love the Batman Harley dynamic that's happening there. And I think it's the most positive that relationship has been in a long time. So yeah, we definitely get that interaction. You know, issue 1, we've got Batman there, and that's really fun to get to bring him into the Harley stories as well.
Fantastic. Well, just to reiterate a couple things, and then we'll get to a few questions. Number 1, Stephanie is writing Nuclear Family with art by Tony Shasteen, and that comes out 1 week from today. You can still add it to your pull list at Alter Ego or at your local comic shop. I had a chance to read the first issue, and that's what encouraged me to reach out to Stephanie. I loved it so much. Wanted to bring her on to talk about it as well. It's a 1950s Cold War thriller, Twilight Zone-esque, alternate reality, all kinds of fun stuff. You'll be wanting to read the second issue by the time you get to the first issue. So add it to your pull list. And then Stephanie's relaunching Harley Quinn for DC Comics in about a month or so. And final order cutoff on that is coming up. So make sure that you add it to your pull list or let your local comic shop know that you want it so they have a copy for you. So let's go with some questions here. Mark wants to know, how did you decide to become a comic book writer?
I've always loved comics, and when I was in grad school, I was doing a lot of academic writing, and I don't think it was fulfilling for me in the same way that it was for a lot of my colleagues. I kind of preferred a more creative approach to the things that I was working on, and I don't know, I think just loving comics, it was just like in my brain, I was like, I wonder how somebody does that. And so I like kind of sought I went off on a mission to like figure out how somebody becomes a comic book writer. And yeah, I kind of just realized I could just start making comics on my own whenever I wanted, like just, you know, find and pay an artist to make stories in my brain. And yeah, I think it snowballed from there. So the first book I wrote was Devil Within with Black Mask Studios, and then went over to Aftershock and started working on Descendant.
You mentioned that you were a fan first. I guess to follow up on that question, how did you get into comics in the first place?
Batman the Animated Series, which I think a lot of 90s babies have that same answer. Like when I talk with other editors and people born in the same era, we're all like, yep, that was the gateway. I fell in love with it, and I loved Batman. And then when I realized that you could kind of continue those adventures in the pages of a book, like when I first saw a comic book, I was like, oh, then yeah, I'm all in on anything that has to do with Batman. And of course, as I got older, I branched out and expanded from there. But it was definitely the Bat that started that.
Excellent. Yeah, like you said, lots of people getting into comics, and I never realized it because I'm 47, so got a few more miles on me. How many people in their 20s, 30s were influenced by the different animated series, the Spider-Man animated series, the X-Men animated series, and then of course Batman the animated series, that those were the gateway for the next generation versus, you know, for me it was Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends and Super Friends and things like that. So it's good to hear that, and it gives a different perspective on how people get into comics. We do have another question here, and this is a tricky one, I'm sure. Justin wants to know if you'll be attending Wizard World Comic-Con in June.
I am not planning to attend a single convention this year, so like I don't know when that's changing, but I've been invited to a few conventions lately, and I've said I just can't anticipate what things are going to be. So unfortunately, I'm saying no to everything.
Yeah, I mean it's tricky, you know, for you as a creator, and you know we've interacted with lots of creators over the years. How hard this must be for you, you know, and especially not just for writers, but also for artists who really make their living, or a big portion of their living, going to cons and doing commissions and doing sketches and things like that. It's just nuts. I mean, I have creator friends that would do 12, 15 different shows in a year, and to think all of that got wiped away in 2020 and is probably going to get wiped away with most of 2021 as well. It's, I guess, inspiring to see how many people have pivoted and been able to either, you know, keep their nose down and do more work that will help, or come up with creative ways to stay afloat during this era of COVID. Is there anything that comes to mind for you from the creator industry that has really helped?
I mean, I think I've just been doing more work, and that's I mean, I think the itch to travel is there, but it's definitely allowed for like a huge amount of time to just take on a few extra like smaller projects that I wouldn't have been able to do normally. So I mean, I guess there's like a slight silver lining there. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us are just missing the convention experience, you know, friends you haven't seen in coming up on like a year now. So that's pretty unfortunate. So hopefully we can get that fixed soon.
Yeah. This actually tomorrow starts the annual Comics Pro meeting, and my shop has been a member of Comics Pro for a while, and some of the retailers were joking, you know, isn't this the time when we all start saying when our flight comes in, and do you want to share a cab? And, you know, where are we going to meet up for a drink? And it's like, yeah, you know, the last time I traveled was February of last year to go to the Comics Pro convention. So we'll get there.
That is not true. We went to Asheville.
No, did I? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
You came back, and then we went to Asheville, and then we've been stuck.
Fact checked by my wife. That's what happens here. We have let's see, we've got 2 more questions, I think, and then we'll let you go. Again, very thankful for the time you've given us tonight. Not sure if this is Ernie or Molly. They function as a team, but they want to know, what has been your best and worst fan experience?
I don't think I have a worst. I don't know. I think all of the fan experiences I've had have been really positive. And you know, I don't really see it as like a fan creator thing. I like talking about comic books with people, so it's always a pleasure. Getting to know the cosplay community a little bit more through Harley, like learning a lot more about like what goes into making those costumes is just incredible to me. I've had a couple of people share like process videos of making the like Infinite Frontier Harley Quinn costume that I designed with Riley, and that's a little surreal to get to see something that like we spent so much time like poring over little details in the costume, and then seeing somebody like make it in a sewing machine is a really cool experience. So that's been really cool. But I don't think I have like a bad fan experience. So maybe I'm lucky.
No, that's good, and hopefully you never do. But and I think more often than not that this industry tends to feature more good than bad. You know, that at the end of the day, there's a lot of camaraderie and commonality, and you know, we all are celebrating the things that we love. So yeah, you're going to have outliers, but that's been one of the inspiring things, and one of the reasons that pushed me to open a store, and maybe for you to create comics, is just the community itself, because it really is, it's big, but it's not that big, you know, and those of us that are fortunate enough to make a living doing what we love, and in this case, comics, you know, it's that community that keeps us going. And especially during during COVID and all the stuff that we had to deal with in 2020, I think without the strength of the comics community, comics would have folded up in 2020. And we have seen that both publishers, creators, and retailers have all been thriving during 2020 because of that. So I'll get off my soapbox and we'll get to our last question here. Another one from Mark, and he wants to know, do you have a character that you've not done that you would like to write about, or have any other ideas you would like to write? She's not going to share her ideas, Mark. I'm sorry.
So, I mean, I had two big ones. One that I actually have written both. One has been one was Batman, and not only does he appear in the pages of Harley, but I am doing Legends of the Dark Knight with DC. So I have with Max Dunbar, we did a Batman story. And of course, I went full mystery because the detective aspect of Batman is my favorite. So I got like to check that one off of the bucket list. And then the other one, which I would normally say like this is my favorite DC character of all time. I can't even say that because now that is the other character I got to write, and I think it'll be announced next month. So I've been pretty lucky. Like my two favorites, and obviously anything to do with Gotham. Like I do have another like favorite obscure character who we've made a very central part of Harley Quinn. So so far every time I've been like this is gonna happen in Harley, like there's been little pushback. So I think my like 2 or 3 favorite characters in the DCU are about to appear. So I'm pretty happy. In terms of other things I write, I mean, I don't know. I'm happy to bring in any characters into Harley. I like her interacting with other people in the Gotham universe. I think that's been very fun. But like saying things I want to write or don't will give away who's going to appear in Harley and who won't. So I should probably shut my mouth before I say something. But I guess I'll say some really cool people get to pop up in the Harley run. And I'm really excited about those interactions and getting to write characters that I've been a huge fan of since the animated series.
So we've got Nuclear Family next week. We've got Harley Quinn in a few weeks. Any other projects you want to plug right now?
I believe Sensational Wonder Woman comes out the first week of March, I think. I think it's March 2nd, something like that. The printed version of Sensational Wonder Woman #1 comes out, so I'm very excited about that one as well. My first take on Wonder Woman. And
since that was a digital first title, I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to it. But is that an anthology book, or is it
not? So it's it functions a little like Legends of the Dark Knight does. So different story chapters are different creators. So I did chapter 1 with Megan Hetrick and Marissa Louise, and then I can't even remember the issue numbers anymore, but I come back to it for a longer installment, I think in the summer, somewhere around June or July.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I did get an advanced look at that from DC. That's also kind of a 50s housewife type of thing, isn't it?
It is. It's not on purpose. But we did have this kind of cool idea for like redesigning like what Diana would look like as this kind of housewife archetype, which in my mind screams this very suburban 1950s, like the dress immediately in your mind, like when somebody gives you that kind of verbal image. So we thought it would be really just kind of like a good visual cue to the reader to be like, this is where Diana is right now. And since it's the #1 of the Sensational Wonder Woman line, that's kind of celebrating Wonder Woman's anniversary this year, we figured we'd go with something like really iconic to say like who is Wonder Woman? If you take away the powers or even her own knowledge of her identity, is she still going to be Wonder Woman? So that is, and of course there's Dr. Psycho and Hawkgirl because I like characters with maces. So,
well, you have a lot of awesomeness coming out over the next months and presumably years, and it was really a pleasure to spend some time with you tonight. If people want to follow you on social media, where do they find you? Where do you spend most of your time?
Pretty much just on Twitter at Steph_Smash.
You all right?
It's just I'm sorry.
Woo. At Steph_Smash on Twitter.
Perfect.
And that is fantastic. So we've gotten, I don't know if you can see the comments, probably can't because I think they're on Facebook, but we've had a lot of people ask to add both Nuclear Family and Harley Quinn to their pull list because of this conversation. So I, again, appreciate you spending some time with us. I know our customers appreciate it too. Wish you nothing but the best, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Sounds great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.